Hi, everybody. This is Slava Kurilyak at Produvia. I am super excited to be on this live stream and tell you what I think are the best parts about AI. Now, I went through and found many questions that the community has asked about AI, machine learning, and data science, and I decided to answer these questions on this live stream. But first, who am I? My name is Slava. I am the founder, CEO at Produvia. And with this agency, I help companies around the world to implement AI technologies. I am very excited for you to join me. If you have a moment, please leave a comment on this live stream. If you have time, please let us know where you're from, where you're joining, and I am more than happy to say hi to you. This live stream is meant to be interactive. Feel free to ask any questions about the topic of AI, machine learning, or data science. I will do my best to address them. In the meanwhile, what I decided to do is I decided to answer specific questions from the community. And this is a starting point where you have a chance to learn a little bit more about AI. And the first question that I came across was by Al Bandidati on Quora. He said, what can an AI engineer do and data science can't do, and vice versa? And this is a great question. And really, there are several similarities and several differences between AI and data science. AI engineers are able to apply data science in their process. Likewise, data scientists are able to apply AI tools in their process. And these are the similarities. They both can leverage each other's techniques in their process. The difference lies, however, in that AI engineer is somebody who focuses more on data, whereas a data scientist is somebody who focuses more on the algorithms. Again, both are related, both have their pros and cons, but there's a slight different focus of the two industries, and this is one way to consider the difference between them. Now, another question from the community I decided to address is Mike on Quora asks, is AI a recent thing? AI is not a recent thing, Mike. AI has been around for more than 50 years. And this is a technology that is evolving, and it has been grounded initially in research and has slowly made its way into the into sort of the post-academia era of companies. And to give you a few examples, in 1966, an MIT lab released a chatbot called Eliza. And Eliza was meant to simulate the first Rogenian, hopefully I said that right, a psychotherapist. This psychotherapist was really aiming to ask you a series of questions, and through these questions you got to realize that you were talking to a real person, but it wasn't. Eliza is one of the first early examples of a chatbot that had used natural language processing in its system. Eliza was developed in 1966 rather, and so it's 54 years old now. But AI also has went through various evolutions and iterations over the last 50 plus years, including the sort of the implementation and wide adoption of machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, computer vision, natural language processing. The next question I have from the community is by Anitya on Quora asks, how much data is required for machine learning? Now, the question of data always arises, whether you are a company who is considering using AI technologies or you all already have begun prototyping with machine learning models. Data questions are one of the biggest questions to answer and to get right. The question of how much is really a question of what are your goals, right? And I follow personally several rules for figuring out how much data is necessary. Usually I apply these rules of thumb for dealing with supervised learning type of problems where I can train a system to understand inputs and outputs. And by training a model with examples of, for example, what it looks like for what is inside an image, I can train a model to understand the subtleties of an image and give it an output or a result. In other words, a supervised learning system is the most common learning techniques used today by AI systems. And the rule of thumb for data here is that if you're starting from scratch, aim to have at least 1 million or 1 billion data points. Now, 1 billion may sound like a lot, and that is the fact. Now, there are ways to leverage data augmentation so that you can start with a smaller number, and through data augmentation, you can enrich your data set and create more varieties, if you were, of that data. And this is one possible path to get to 1 billion data points. But the community is already using data sets that consist of 1 billion plus parameters. One recent example is by a company called OpenAI, and they released a specific model called GPT-3. And GPT-3 is a model that uses billions of parameters in their architecture and is able to achieve a superhuman level of accuracy for solving different types of natural language processing tasks. So again, the rule of thumb is if you're starting from scratch, aim for 1 million plus, preferably billion plus data points. If you're using a pre-trained model, aim for 1,000 to 1 million data points of parameters. And on sort of the other side of the spectrum, if you are using a pre-trained model which leverages automated machine learning techniques, here you can get away with 100 to 1,000 data points. Again, starting from scratch, 1 million plus. If you're using a pre-trained model, 1,000 plus. If you're using an auto ML model that has been pre-trained, we're talking about 100 plus. And this is a rule of thumb that can be applied to any industry to solve many different types of data problems, but more specifically to solve supervised learning problems. And it looks like we have a question from our audience. Rael Black asks on YouTube, do I need to have data to create an AI? And can I have AI designed to collect data? This is a two-part question, Rael. You do need data to create AI, and AI is one of the powerful technologies that requires data as part of its process. Having said that, the AI technology is rapidly evolving, and today you need less data than you did yesterday, than you did a month ago or a year ago. And this is the best part about the technology. As the algorithms evolve, as the complexity of AI systems increase over time, what we get is the ability to solve problems with less data. So I'll give you a few examples. One way to use an algorithm that requires less data is to solve a problem called few-shot learning. Few-shot learning is aiming to feed a system with few examples of what it means to solve a problem. An AI system figures out how to solve that particular use case. The other very powerful use case for how AI systems are changing and using less data is the application of not just few-shot learning, but one-shot learning. One-shot learning is the latest algorithms that are being developed in the community. These algorithms are extremely powerful because they really ask the user to provide one data type, one data input. If you use one data type, you're really aiming to create a system that can learn the way that humans learn, right? Babies learn from very few examples. Sometimes a baby can look at something once and figure out what to do next time. This is the holy grail of AI systems. It's called a one-shot learning, and ultimately zero-shot learning is a theoretical extension of that. With one-shot learning, AI systems learn from one example. Today, algorithms already exist that solve these type of tasks. And so the first part of your question, Real, is data is necessary, but not as much data as in the past. And the second part of your question is, can I have AI designed to collect data? Absolutely. Data can come from a variety of different sources or different ways that it can be collected. And there is no hard rule for how you create data, whether you're creating data by observing people or you're creating data by using algorithms and computers to generate something. And because of that, AI systems can actually observe the world, if you were, and collect data. One very powerful example is in the securities industry. There are many use cases where people use cameras to record how others behave, right? So imagine there is a shopping mall, and imagine a shopping mall owner wants to know if there is theft going on and how they can proactively reduce that. Using cameras, computer systems can not only take in the video stream that comes in. Using deep learning algorithms, these shopping malls or security installments can analyze in real time the behavioral characteristics of the individuals that are on film. So now companies know if a specific individual has a malicious intent or not, if they have a suspicious behavior or not. And this is how AI is processing data and also generating data so that individuals and companies can then proactively review the tape and make decisions about what the tape recorded. So data can be used to generate data, can be generated by a variety of different algorithms, whether they are driven by AI systems or not. It's really up to the company or the individual to figure out. Okay, now coming back to our community question, we have a next question that is from, let's see. Okay, perfect. What data mining project can I do with COVID-19? Joel asks on Quora. Joel, COVID-19 is on everyone's minds. It is short for the coronavirus disease 2019, as previously defined a pandemic that had really swept the world. And COVID-19 is really most pressing issue that we face today. And so the question is, what can data mining do for COVID-19? And the answer is, we first need to understand data mining. Data mining is the process used by companies primarily to turn raw data into information or insights. Data mining is related to data science, but the goal is to apply specific types of tools to derive insights, and raw data may or may not be readable by people, and this is the challenge. So to answer this question, how can you leverage a data mining project to solve a COVID-19 problem? It really depends on the type of questions you ask yourself, right? Think of it like the better your question is, the higher probability of driving an answer. The better your question is, the better your solution may be. And the examples of types of questions that come to my mind when I think of COVID-19 are: what is the relationship between COVID-19 and other coronaviruses? What is the relationship between COVID-19 and cardiovascular disease? What is the relationship between COVID-19 and the weather? COVID-19 and blood type. Is there a relationship between COVID-19 and purchasing behavior? Chronic disease. What is the relationship between pollution and COVID-19? How can COVID-19 influence smokers? And another one comes to mind is, what is the correlation between heating, ventilation, and air systems, or air conditioning systems, HVAC, and COVID-19? These are different types of questions you can ask yourself, and the answer to these questions often requires you to do data mining and figure out what is most useful in the data that you have. And this is quite important for anyone who is thinking about doing data mining projects. All right, the next question we have is Donnie on Quora asks, how has AI affected your life? Donnie, I love this question. The AI is a technology that has transformed my life personally. I use and develop AI on a daily basis. I have done so for the last 7 years, and I'm more than happy to share with you why I think AI is powerful and how it has impacted my life. Let's start with why I do what I do. AI is a transformative technology. For the first time, AI allows you to worry less about the algorithms that you need to use to generate revenue, decrease costs, or create impact on yourself or your company. But more importantly, it allows you to focus more on data. So you shift from algorithms to data. And this shift is a fundamental difference between other types of computer science industries or areas and AI. AI is allowing you to think about data differently, right? You're not thinking about what is the algorithm. You're thinking of what is the input and what is the output that I need to show to a computer so that the computer understands what I have in mind. And I see that there's tremendous value in leveraging AI. And for myself personally, AI has done 3 things to my life. Number 1, it has simplified my life. Number 2, it has made my life more personal. And number 3, it has made my life more conversational. And I now use recommended search by companies like Google to find most relevant information. And I now use recommended playlists by companies like Spotify to discover new music. And lastly, I now talk to machine learning driven personal assistants. And this is how I use the conversational side of AI. And I think that AI is something that has transformative effects on anyone who uses this technology. And I think it really depends on what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. For myself, I partner with companies to, like I've mentioned, generate revenue and reduce costs. And so AI usually is solving some specific domain problem and creating a very elegant solution so that my clients are able to derive value from that. From the personal side, I think AI has changed my habits, right? I speak more to AI systems conversationally, whether through texting or using my voice, and I receive recommendations from AI systems that are making my life easier and simpler. Great. So again, this is a live stream, so I remind everyone that if you have a specific question about AI, feel free to leave it in the comment section on the side or below. I am more than happy to address your questions in real time, and I continue answering community questions that I think are most relevant for this live stream. The next question that I see is from Sarah on Quora. Sarah asks, how do I understand and implement a scientific paper or article in machine learning or deep learning? Sarah, this is a great question in that you're thinking about the implementation of AI technologies. The first thing you do is you start by reading the research paper. Read the abstract, read the introduction, the methodology, the results of the research paper, and get yourself familiar with what the author is talking about. Sometimes you may need to take notes on the side. You may need to ask yourself questions, look for answers within that research paper, make highlights, reread the research paper. These are all elements that allow you to absorb what has been written by somebody else. The next step after you have read the research paper is actually to look for code implementations that allow you to then leverage what the official implementation does and use it to save yourself time. Right? If there is a code release that you can look at, use it. If that code is hosted on GitHub, which is now owned by Microsoft, make sure you clone it or fork the repository and open it on your computer, review the code, go line by line if you have to better understand how the researcher has implemented the solution you have in mind. Now, keep in mind that not all researchers and not everyone in the academia releases their open source implementation version of the research paper. Some do, some don't. Some researchers are holding the paper, the code implementation back by 12 to 18 months in order for their team or organization to get a head start in leveraging the research in its application. Others are more open to when they release the open source implementation. Others do not release the open source implementation completely. They decide to write a research paper and not disclose how they implemented or the step-by-step process of implementation. And if that code exists, use it. That's a great second step for you. If it does not exist, now you have a choice. You can either start from scratch or you can use similar projects. And this is where I advise you to look online and find similar projects in the open source community that you can use. And these open source projects will give you an excellent head start at implementing a similar algorithm. Deep learning is a particular technology that evolves over time, but there are many open source implementations of deep learning algorithms. And so you can start there if you cannot find the official implementation online. This is an excellent sort of step in the right direction. And the next question is Shane Encore asks, can I become a data scientist with a computer science background? Yes, you can, Shane. Yes, you can. Data science is an interdisciplinary field which focuses on extracting insights from data, similar to data mining. Data science includes analysis, preparing data for analysis, and presenting those findings to decision makers of an organization. Data scientists are often working within teams or organizations because they give insights, and those insights usually generate revenue or reduce costs for their employers. Data science has a very strong foundation in business. And this means that data science actually incorporates lots of different skills, including computer science, mathematics, statistics, information visualization, graphic design, complex systems, communication, and business. These are the different types of skills that data scientists often need in order to do well at their job. Again, because a data scientist often works with decision makers, executives on a specific organization, they often need to understand business metrics, business lingo, KPIs, which is short for key performance indicators, in order for them to present data better. The better they can present their findings, the more likely they are to get what they want, which is often to do more analysis. And so it's a virtual, or rather virtuous, yet very positive loop. The better you get at speaking to business folks as a technologist, as a data scientist, the better you get at creating more analyses, which then allows you to present even more results to the stakeholders. And this is a very powerful technology that allows you to give insight to the companies you work with. Perfect. So I have answered lots of different questions from the community, and I remind everyone who joins this live stream, this is an opportunity for you to ask questions. Feel free to say hi. Feel free to let me know where you're from. And I am more than happy to answer your questions in real time on this live stream. I plan to do regular live streams like this, where I answer different types of questions, whether it's community questions or audience questions. And I am more than happy to continue doing this so that others, including executives and decision makers, can better use this technology in their business. Now, to back up a little bit of a recap, we talked about AI, we talked about machine learning and data science. These are different types of industries or fields that are correlated to each other. And so oftentimes there's some confusion between these terms. Don't worry if these terms are overwhelming. My goal is to educate and inform you in the best way that I can. I will use this live stream to answer your questions if you choose to share them with me. And I want to conclude with the next step. And the next step really is for you to ask yourself, what is your goal? Are you working at a company that is thinking about leveraging AI? If you are, then consider the fact that you can generate revenue, right, make money, or reduce costs, cut back on expenses by using AI technology. If you think that you are a good fit for this profile, you work for a company, you have data, you have capital, then I am more than happy to talk to you and discuss how AI technologies can be used to solve your specific problem. I remind you that I run an AI agency and we specialize in developing custom machine learning models. And I'm more than happy to continue this conversation with you on a discovery call. And so the next step for you is to actually click on the link in the description and schedule a brief discovery call with me where we can have a brief conversation and we can talk about AI and how it can impact your business. If you are an executive or decision maker, I look forward to hearing from you. I also want to remind everyone to subscribe to my channel. Subscribing allows you to see new live streams that I will create in the future. And these live streams aim to give you massive value so that you can then use this powerful technology in your personal life and business life. I want to thank you for joining this live stream. And I want to thank everyone who had a chance to join in. I look forward to hearing from all of you and sharing more insights about AI, machine learning, and data science in my upcoming live stream. I want to thank you for your time and have a great rest of the day.